Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader here. For anyone in countries, I don't know if it's just the US that celebrates Labor Day today, but happy Labor Day. For most of us, it just means a day off from work. I'm not sure if we're supposed to celebrate labor, people working the tough jobs in life. I don't think so. But it's the traditional beginning of the school year here in the US, even though my daughter's school started 3 days before. And it's a time where everybody has Labor Day sales, kind of the beginning of the fall, even though the weather here in Portland, we've had 100-degree weather for 3 days in a row, or roughly 100-degree weather. But at least 2 nearby comic book shops have Labor Day sales. Another one's going to have a sale in 2 weeks that they're calling their back to school sale. That will be the sale that comes after the Rose City Comic Con. So maybe they want to sell off a lot of their stock and they don't want to compete with Rose City Comic Con. And maybe they didn't want to compete with all the other sales. So that's what I'm excited about, because there's lots of good comics at that shop, Cosmic Monkey, which tends to have kind of high prices. So when it's half off, which is what everyone does at these sales, then it's a really good deal. So I actually went to a Labor Day sale on Friday and then on Sunday. So I have the combined of the 2 sales to show you. The big thing I bought, which was kind of unexpected, but I overheard the shop owner at Excalibur mention to someone who came in the door that it was not just 50% off of back issues, it was 50% off of, she mentioned specifically, artist editions. And so that made, artist editions don't have a real set price, but they'd set the price for this Will Eisner Spirit Volume 2 at $125. So for me to buy it for $62, I could not resist. Because I would have liked to get it someday. I already have 1 volume Will Eisner, so it's not like the thing I had to get. And this was kind of a shelf copy, so I don't know, if it had been manhandled and stuff. If I were going to pay full price, I think I would have wanted to order a copy either through my shop or online, so that I get it mint, so to speak. Although I don't see any obvious damage to it. It's the larger size. I think until sometime in the mid-'60s, they did what I've heard Jared Osborne call twice up, which actually means it's twice the proportions of a comic book, so it actually makes it 4 times the size, at least, of a comic book. So one of the Fantastic Four special editions was like this. The Thor artist edition was like this, and the other Will Eisner, and I think one of the Steranko ones. They also had a Steranko one there, but its cover was buckled, so I didn't get that. And I think that they may have been selling this at a loss, because I thought they pay like $79 or something like that for these artist editions. And they don't make 50% off these usually. I could be wrong. But so I think that they've had these artist editions just sitting around for a long time. I know a couple of years ago, eyed the Steranko one and this one, maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, at Excalibur Comics. There's a bit of a crackle sound when I open it. Hope that's okay. I still don't even know how to film looking at one of these artist editions. Someday I should do a Will Eisner artist edition kind of video if I can figure out how to do it. Anyway, pretty amazing price. I hope there's not something wrong. I'm pretty sure it's all okay. It's just a bit of a sound around the binding there. So that was very unexpected. The rest, for the most part, had kind of a plan in my mind of what to look for. One of the things I was looking for was Supergirl related stuff to share with Quacking Duck, my daughter. And they actually had a section called Miscellaneous Supergirl. And in that I found this Supergirl Annual, Pulp House Heroes, Young Romance, I Lied for Love, and Object of Desire. Hopefully these will be of interest to my daughter. They look fun for me. I kind of like the idea of romance among superheroes, although this late 90s style art is not too appealing. Actually, the coloring's a little weird. It's still on cheaper paper, but maybe slightly computerized coloring, I'm not sure. And hopefully will be a lot of fun. And then Supergirl and Prism Double Shot, which is a team up between these two characters. We already read this one. I liked the art quite a bit. The story was a bit like an old-fashioned Twilight Zone kind of horror story type of thing. And it probably, I liked it okay, but it didn't appeal to Quacking Duck. I'm looking forward to reading this. Supergirl plus The Power of Shazam. So it seems like they were in the late 90s. One of these was from 98, one from 97, doing team-up comics, one-shot team-up comics. This one has some pretty nice looking artwork. I like these versions of Supergirl and Mary Marvel, at least the way they're drawn. My daughter isn't too keen on the Matrix version of Supergirl. Somehow she feels kind of like a purist and wants Kara Zor-El Supergirl, who then becomes Linda Lee and Linda Lee Danvers and etc. Again, with my daughter and myself in mind, I bought a few of these adventure comics, which was Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. I looked for ones that looked like they might have some strong female leads in them too. Like this one has Supergirl in it. I actually picked out a ton more of these adventure ones, but they were on the slightly pricier side. All this is half price, so for instance, this one's listed at $7.95, so it was $4. But it adds up when you start buying a lot of these half price comics. So I kind of whittled down the adventure ones to these three. This one's a really cool Neil Adams cover. The bag is quite wrinkly. The Tornado Twins, I don't recall those particular ones. It's weird seeing these Neil Adams covers on Legion of Superheroes somehow. I'm not sure why, but it makes them seem more grown up than probably the interiors are. And so here's another Neil Adams cover. There were a few more Neil Adams covers. I almost bought them. Those tended to go at this shop for $12. So they would have been $6. And I could have afforded that, but I was just buying so many comics that I decided to limit myself. But I love Silver Age DC Neil Adams covers. They're really just so different from everything else in the Silver Age. But they still have a Silver Age charm to them that people trying to be like Neil Adams now don't put that kind of charm into them. Speaking of charm, here's a Joe Kubert, I guess the beginning of the Bronze Age officially, cover from Our Fighting Forces, which I've been curious about mostly because of an interest in the Kirby's Our Fighting Forces. Kirby's 11 or 9 issue run on the Losers. But when I was at a shop in Maine, the Kirby Losers cost more than like the Kirby Mr. Miracle, and I thought this doesn't make sense, so I decided to look elsewhere. And here at Excalibur Comics, they had all of Our Fighting Forces except for those 11 issues of Kirby, or 10, whatever, however many they are, somewhere between 9 and 11. Those were gone. Someone had already bought those, so I don't know what those would have cost me here. On the inside is very nice John Severin art. And I didn't realize he'd done so much for DC, but I have another Our Fighting Forces that I bought in Maine that also has John Severin art on the inside. And this is just such a wonderful cover by Joe Kubert. I love how all the losers say, hogwash! Anyway, that was a fun one. This one is in really beat up shape. I think the cover price was $2.95, so I think I paid $3 for it. Here's some Thors that I got. Some Silver Age Thors are made. Yeah, I think they're still Silver Age. Very end of the Silver Age when John Buscema took over Thor. I put this in a Mylar bag. I have these Mylar bags that I'm checking out. They're 4-ply, and I think if they were 2-ply, I could fit the Silver Age comics in them better. So they're a little too snug for the Silver Age comics at 4-ply. and maybe even a bit snug on Bronze Age comics. So I got to rethink getting 4-ply bags, but it's very satisfying how stiff they are. But for instance, I could not fit a board in along with this comic in there. So this is Thor 182. I don't know how early on it is in John Buscema's run. I got one of those John Buscema Thors, early John Buscema Thors in Maine and read it, and I just love the Buscema art in it. The script by Stan Lee was like totally just space filler, I guess. But anyway, it was still beautiful to look at. So I thought I'd grab some more that I don't already have, or that I don't have anymore. I once had a nearly complete Thor collection, which I know I did not give away or sell, but it's gone. So I sort of assume a roommate at some point. I used to have a bunch of housemates that one of them walked off with it, or one of their friends walked off with it. Anyway, same with my Tomb of Dracula collection. Those were both ones I was never going to give up. So anyway, I love this cover, the shirtless giant there. It seems very heavy metal. And it introduces the Silent One, who never speaks. I won't spoil it by telling you who the Silent One works for. Love this cover too, the old Marvel frame cover. Thor teaming up with Silver Surfer or fighting Silver Surfer. I'm not sure what happens. I haven't cracked this one open yet. So for me, I paid on the high end for this $15, so $7 for it. I must have really wanted that. And here's another one. I wonder what the condition inside will be, because this was listed at $5, so it was $2.50. Love that cover. I'm pretty sure I had this one. I remember this cover very specifically. That was Thor 204, so that's already into the 20-cent era. So I always think of as the Bronze Age starting with the 20-cent comics, but I know that's probably not technically true. And then I was looking for more weird mystery tales, and they didn't have any of them, so I started browsing through the weird war tales, and I couldn't resist buying a couple of these Creature Commandos, and this is another one I was experimenting with this really thick Mylar bag. Creature Commandos and G.I. Robot. This is number 111. This must have been from the end of the 70s. When were 60-cent comics? I'm not sure. I managed to get a thin board in here. I had a full back. I could not fit that in here with this comic. These bags are listed as standard size, which I thought was aimed mostly at Bronze Age comics, but usually can fit Silver Age. And I've read one of these, and it was really fun. I haven't read this one. This one is just Creature Commandos, no G.I. Robot. In one of these, they team up with G.I. Robot. In one of these, there's a story of each. And I guess in this one, maybe it's just the Creature Commandos. This is the one I read. I really enjoyed it a lot. It had some great artwork by an artist I never heard of named Fred Carrillo. Unfortunately, someone did some math on the inside of the cover. But I thought Fred Carrillo's artwork was really nice, and the coloring actually was really nice by Jerry Serpy, who I never heard of before either. But for a, olden days 4-color press color, this coloring was really nice. I don't know if there really is a daughter of Demeter and Pluto named Inferna. Probably not. I think they made it up for this issue. And then the backup was a robot GI in which there was a robot dog. And it's all about the loneliness of the robot, the GI robot, who never talks. So these are these wacky kind of DC comics that are just a lot of fun. And then I think by buying this issue, number 6 of Astonishing Tales, I've completed the 8-issue run of Khazar and Dr. Doom sharing Astonishing Tales. Then it went on to be just Khazar. I always call him Khazar from my childhood. Khazar became just a Khazar comic. Then it became a comic about it. And then after that, it picked up with Deadlock. And you may have seen in the earlier haul from Maine that I picked up some Deadlocks, and that kind of got me in the Deadlock bug. I wanted to get all the Deadlock, Rich Buckler Deadlock run. So this is the first issue in it. It was very cheap. I would have bought a more expensive copy if they had one. I think they was selling it for $8, so it cost me $4. Great cover, classic cover, created by Rich Buckler, who was one of my early favorite Bronze Age artists, maybe after John Buscema. And so there's number 26. Some of these might be the ones I picked up previously. I'm not sure if I accidentally folded them in here before doing this haul. That was 26, 27, the Warwolf. I wonder if the Warwolf ever came back in Marvel Comics. I know Deathlock's come back many times. So Rich Buckler would do he had the basic concept and basic plot, and then usually Doug Monch, but I think sometimes other writers at Marvel would help him with the dialogue. I don't know if he needed help with dialogue or that was just their official policy since he was officially an artist. I like to think that, I wonder what happened to Rich Buckler. Something must have happened, drove him over to DC, and he was a very good artist at DC, but he was more of a standard, post Neil Adams artist there, and he seemed well, at times he was very Jack Kirby when he was at Marvel, but he just seemed a little more radical at Marvel, and he created a few characters. I'd like to imagine an alternate world where he continued on as a writer-artist rather than just an artist. I think he was kind of a superstar or a stalwart at DC, doing so many covers and so much other stuff, and then he just disappeared. He went out of fashion and he was gone. I know, and he just died recently. I know he lived a long time without being part of Marvel or DC, which seems a horrible shame to me. This cover has him more in his Jack Kirby pose. I accidentally got an extra copy of this, so if anyone is interested in Astonishing Tales number 30, starring Deathlock the Demolisher, if you need that, let me know. This is a pretty incredible cover. I feel like I've seen this cover ripped off a number of times, unless this was a rip-off of some other cover. That's number 31. So I think I'm missing issue number 29, or maybe I have that in one of my other piles from the other haul. Issue 32. Issue 33. Nope, 34. So I'm missing 33, or is that in another pile also? Is this some kind of general that helped create him and then he's fighting against, he rebelled against his creators? I'm trying to remember who that guy is. So that's 35. Here's 36. Is 36 the last one? I think it might be the last one of this run. That's a pretty cool cover too. It has a bit of a Jim Steranko look. I don't know if it's directly from a Jim Steranko kind of thing. Yeah, here's my extra copy of that one, Deathlock, number 30. Then a lot of times at these sales I buy a lot of House of Mystery and House of Secrets. This time I just grabbed 2. I think I had more and then I put them back. These I got at Cloud9 Comics, my regular comic book store. I think they're the highest priced regularly. But at half price, it was good. This is a dollar size one. The guy at the store thought these were not reprints. It looks like a Bernie Wrightson cover. A pretty odd one. This has got like a Swamp Thing crossed with some other kind of alien. Let me look inside. Oh, you know what? It says 80 pages, all new stories. So pretty good deal. Lots of House of Mystery stories in there. Let me get this nasty tape off. Cloud9 puts a stamp on the back of their boards. Excalibur only has some of their comics come with boards, and I don't think they put a stamp there. But I may be replacing a lot of these boards, certainly a lot of these bags. Wow, that looks nice. The older I get, the more I'm an aficionado of the short story, especially the short story in comics. So I want to see more of those. So I got that one, and I couldn't resist this cover, and the price wasn't too bad. Do You Dare Enter the House of Mystery? Contract. Contract with the Devil. We all got to avoid those contracts with the devil. Watch out. And then I started in Maine picking up some amazing adventures featuring War of the Worlds. And so I'm filling that out. I'm actually most interested in the Herb Trimpe issues, although obviously the peak of this series was these beautiful P. Craig Russell issues. I'm not sure. I just have this Herb Trimpe obsession going back again to childhood. And I'm kind of fascinated by his primitive and sophisticated sides. Anyway, this is the second War of the Worlds issue, second appearance of Killraven, and I think this issue and the previous were drawn by Howard Chaykin, and they look pretty crazy. Not the Howard Chaykin style that we're used to now at all, but not the Marvel House, really far away from the Marvel House style. Kind of, I don't know. They just seem more hippie-ish and out there, and the proportions seem wrong, and everything is just a little weirder. So that was Amazing Adventures number 19. So I guess it started in number 18, the War of the Worlds series. Here's number 20. That's a Herb Trimpe cover. Herb Trimpe does awesome covers. The inside, you can sort of sense that he was an artist in a rush at times. It's not bad at all, but I don't think it's him at his best, whereas you can see what he is at his best on the cover. Probably on the cover inking himself, which helps. But there's just, I don't know. I find Herb Trimpe comics, at least during his peak years, to be kind of joyful. And although it's nostalgic for me to go back to Herb Trimpe, at the time, I think I was much more impressed by P. Craig Russell, and I said, boy does Herb Trimpe look bad compared to P. Craig Russell. I wanted to look at more. Here's issue number 21. There's a lot of stuff. They're like ex-gladiators who have escaped from the Martians and are now leading the revolution. So I guess a bit like Spartacus or something. So there's a lot of return to past foes from the arena and being sent into the arena and the like. I think I also love the idea of the Martians coming back and enslaving Earth, and then this colorful rebellion that's very hippie looking and stuff. I don't think this cover is definitely not Herb Trimpe. I'm not sure who it is. It could almost be like a John Romita sketch, badly inked, but I don't know who that is. Then this one, I'm pretty sure, is Herb Trimpe. And that's interesting. It's not the window frame, but there is kind of a cutoff line here. Not too many comics do that. That to me evokes more of a EC Comics kind of look. That's number 22. Number 23, pretty beat up copy. That is either Herb Trimpe or Rich Buckler. I'm not sure. I think it's Herb Trimpe by the proportions. I like that cover. This one is definitely a Rich Buckler cover in full-on Kirby mode. Again, the line across the top. But I think of all of Kirby's imitators, when Rich Buckler was imitating Kirby, I found him to be one of the most exciting Kirby imitators, Kirby swipers, if you will. As this cover, for me anyway, demonstrates. It's just full of life. It pops with action and energy. So that was 24, 25. So some of these I may have showed to you again, like the Deathlock. I may have slipped in the ones I bought in Maine here. I'm just not totally sure. That's obviously a Gil Kane cover. This, I think, is a John Romita cover, not one of his best, but there's always strong things going on in a John Romita cover. Then we've got what looks to me to be a P. Craig Russell cover, but inked by someone else, is my guess. And this one was interesting. It's a fill-in by Keith Geffen. And then afterwards, it continues with a few more P. Craig Russell issues before this ends. did they continue on in a Killraven comic, or was that all? I can't remember. So, and starting at one comic book store, I saw Hercules Unbound, and it reminded me I always wanted to get it. And I think I've managed to get either the complete Hercules Unbound run or most of it now. And I had these issues before. I specifically remember the 7-Eleven or convenience store where I bought these down a long road near a horrible boarding school that my parents sent me to for 1 year, which I managed to escape after a year. But the plus side of the boarding school is they gave me a much higher allowance than my parents gave me, and I could buy lots of comics if I could find them. And I would go down to this store and find odds and ends. And much of Hercules Unbound is inked by, is this issue number 2? Yep, issue number 2. I'm sure most of these are just reader's copies of all of the books I got. But a lot of Hercules Unbound is inked by Wally Wood over other artists. I think over Walt Simonson, but maybe also over, what's his name? Luis Garcia Lopez. I forget what his first name is. How can I forget that? Here's number 3. I definitely had number 3. I remember that cover. I think that's Walt Simonson doing the cover with someone inking over him, but probably not Wally Wood. Maybe Giordano. I'm just guessing. That looks like Garcia Lopez to me, but again, just guessing. It also has a kind of a Rich Buckler look. I don't think he was at DC at the time. But this looks like a crossover with Commandy. He's fighting gorillas and tigers. I think there was an attempt to tie this in with Commandy somehow. I can't tell who did that cover. That's kind of a weird cover. It looks kind of awkward with is that the Tower of London or something falling on him, Big Ben or whatever you call it. It almost looks like Gil Kane, but I don't think Gil Kane was working at DC at the time. The faces don't look like Gil Kane, just the poses. But anyway, it's kind of a lesser cover. I wish people signed covers more often back then. Oh, is it signed? It says Garcia Lopez. I would not have recognized that as Garcia Lopez. So that's number 6, 5, 4. So far I've got them all. Here's number 7. I also remember number 7. That's clearly inked by Wally Wood. So I think I had 3 of these issues as a kid. And I may have picked up something more recently. I feel like I have at least one Hercules Unbound, but I just thought I'd get them all with the chance. I didn't see them in my CLZ app, but not everything's in my CLZ app yet. So that's number 7. Number 8. That, I'm pretty sure, is a Walt Simonson cover. Let's see, is there a signature there? It says Walt and Woody, so that's Walt Simonson being inked by Wally Wood. That looks like Walt Simonson not inked by Wally Wood. He had a kid sidekick. I don't know if he had that at first. I definitely think he needed a sidekick character, that helped a lot. With this, it's Hercules in the post-apocalypse, I believe, which is why they could tie it in with Commandy, I suppose. Although I think it's a different apocalypse than Commandy lived through. It's number 9, 7, 8, 9. Another one that's clearly Simonson. In fact, the other one said Walt, and now this has the famous Simonson signature there. So maybe he inked it himself too. Simonson hadn't fully developed his style. I remember early on hearing about him as everyone thought he just had the most wonderful page layouts of any artist around at the time, even before he became well known with Thor. This is more Simonson. You can see that signature there. Hercules has changed his outfit. Maybe not for the better. I don't know. It looks too busy. Number 11. And then I think the last of it, certainly the last that I got, still in the new outfit, is number 12. I think that's also a Simonson cover. Yep, there's the signature. At last, the secret of the anti-gods. You'll never forget Hercules' last battle. And you could be in the Superman movie. See details inside. Oops. Here's another Deathlock, number 33. Got that. I definitely got this time because it says Cloud9 on the back of it. Yeah, so there's that. And as very long-time viewers can remember, I've been collecting Atlas comics. I have a large chunk of them, but I guess there's still a few escaping me. So I had Tales of Evil number 2 and number 3, and here's number 1, so that completes that run. Calling something Tales of Evil really appeals to me. I'm sure it's just will be standard House of Mystery style stories on the inside. An interesting note here is that this cover, I'm almost positive, is by Larry Lieber, who really, at least on covers he did for Atlas Comics, did a great job of, to me, combining some of the strengths of Kirby and John Romita into his covers. And I'm surprised that you don't see much Larry Lieber art around throughout the rest of the Bronze Age, given how good of a job he did on covers. He was the editor over at Atlas. I think he may now still be doing the Spider-Man comic strip, which Stan Lee supposedly writes and he supposedly draws. I'm not sure. And then, amazingly, given my Kirby love, I do not have the complete Machine Man run. I will soon have the complete 2001 Space Odyssey run. I guess that's a story for another video. But so I picked up Machine Man number 1, Machine Man number 4, and Machine Man number 8. All very cheap. This one for $2. I wonder if there's something missing inside of it. Kirby put great covers on here. And I'm not sure why it's taking me so long to pick up Machine Man. I had some Machine Man way back when I was a kid. I can't remember. It probably was the ones in 2001: A Space Odyssey. I grabbed Savage Tales number 4 for a cover price or list price of $5, so for $2.50. I was amazed I could get it that cheaply. It has this awesome Neil Adams cover, but on the insides are just black and white reprints of old color Conan comics. So I guess with number 4, they were already, I don't know what the story was, but deadline problems or something. And eventually Savage Tales in another issue or two became mostly focused on Khazar, and Conan got his own Savage Sword of Conan. Why they discontinued Savage Tales and chose to do Savage Sword of Conan, I've never heard that story. And speaking of, this is Conan Saga. This was originally the painting by Neil Adams again on the cover of Savage Tales number 6, I believe. And that was, they had one Conan story and a Khazar story, I think. I wonder if the Conan story was a reprint too. They were basically passing the torch on to Khazar here. I love this cover by Neil Adams. But on the inside, it's completely different material. In fact, the first story is the first story from Savage Sword of Conan number 1, which is the first sort of reappearance of Red Sonja, the first appearance of Red Sonja in her really embarrassing, unrealistic, silly costume. The original Red Sonja wore, I guess you'd call them panties, and a male shirt that covered her arms and chest and everything and belly, and some pretty cool boots. But then I don't know who made the decision to dress her this way. And maybe that's made her last all these years, or maybe not. I don't know. And finally, I just grabbed another copy of this, my favorite Spirit cover from the Warren Spirit number 3, which was colored by Richard Corbin. I've given this away once or twice as a gift to people. So if I have extra copies already, this will probably be a gift to someone someday. Phew, how long did that take me? Only 36 minutes. These hauls take a long time because I'm a greedy son of a bitch when it comes to comics. And mostly I could buy fewer, nicer comics, I guess. And somehow am I a hoarder? I'm love buying runs of things and stuff. Stuff, most of which I won't have too much time to read anytime soon, though I have read some of these already and plan to read more. Killraven and Creature, what's it called? The Creature Commandos, and probably will dig more into the dead cyborg guy, Deathlock. So, anyway, it's getting hot in this room. Maybe that's why I can't think so well anymore. I'm starting to glisten. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.